Our dear viewers, I welcome you to our program, as usual. Mangen Bernard is my name, from St. Saviour Junior School, Kisubi, Entebbe. Going to take you through mathematics. I thank all those who have tried to do the work. Most of the work you did was very wonderful. Most of you have done perfectly the work. I thank you so much. The number I left behind was well done. There is a member who called me. I told him, teacher, you told us the answer is 7,000, but it was 700. That is wonderful. I told you I teach you how to fish for yourself. You must be able to tell which is right and which is wrong. You know, my children, nobody will ever lie to them. Even if someone else comes from somewhere, they will always know the truth, and they will pin you with the truth. So when you get 500 plus 200, you will obviously get 700, not 7,000. So that's what I expected, and that is very fantastic. Head teacher, is it quality? Kampala quality. I thank you so much. You wrote everything, all subtopics so far we have covered. And you said, we shall test them according to this. And we are planning to see that each and everything which has been covered is well tested. See that? We shall set some questions according to what has been covered, all the topics covered. At least that one I'm very sure it will happen. So without wasting time, we have a lot of time, a lot of things to do. We are going to embark on the work we are supposed to cover today. But above all, we are not only training you how to calculate numbers. When we teach you, when we guide you on what we are doing, we are training you on logical thinking, creative and critical thinking. We train you how to cope up with stress. You will get a number, you read it, you read it, you read it several times to see that you understand and you work it out. We are only not training you how to work out, you read anyhow and you, without understanding, you work out. No. Critical thinking, logical thinking, then problem solving. Those are life skills we are training you. When a number keeps on disturbing you, you must cope up with stress. It is one of the things we train. That is mathematics. So tomorrow, you'll be in position to cope up with stress, do things logically, carefully, with accuracy. And that is all. That's what the world wants you to do. You can't do things without critically thinking, analyzing. When you do things anyhow, results don't come out. Results will never come out in our life being. Our life being. We need to do things carefully so that we achieve better results. So everything requires critical thinking. Even driving, when you're driving, if you cannot think critically, you are the people who will cause chaos on the road. So everything, handle it with care. We are looking at fractions, major applications. Application of fractions. We are adding on from where we ended. Our number, which I left behind, was, we are going to go through it because we have a lot to cover. This is number 4. We had just done number 3, whereby I told you to add. And everybody, I saw your results, we find 700 pupils. Then number 1, there is a member who told me, teacher, instead of saying in a class, it could have been in a school because there is no class with 2,000 pupils. Well and good. We could have changed. Instead of changing down there, instead of changing school, we could remove this class and we put here school. Yeah, but all the results remain the same. That was our number 3 on this chart. So since we have a little period of time, we are going to be a little slow, but on right track. We don't want to quake at the end and we get wrong results. I beg. Let's be slow. What we cover, we shall continue from there. Steady speed wins the race. Other than hurrying and we crash. Number 4. In a school of 320 pupils, the school has a total number of 320. 3 out of 8 of them, 3 out of 8 of 320 pupils are day scholars. And the rest are boarders. Meaning, when 3 parts out of 8 parts of these children are day scholars, the remaining parts are boarders. There you can really tell. I told you we train logical thinking. You don't just do things anyhow. So you can be in a position to realize that 5 parts out of 8 parts are the ones which are left. Because 3 parts out of 8 are for the scholars. It means the remaining parts, 5 parts out of 8 parts of the total number are boarders. That one is easy to tell. However, let's continue. Of the boarders, now there you must be very critical. Of the boarders, eh? You see reading, eh? When you just understand reading, eh? You understand when you read any information, you will have the answers. Of the boarders, not of the pupils. Of the boarders, 1 out of 8 are girls. Now, among the boarders, 1 part out of the 80 parts are girls. Among the boarders, meaning you need to know the number of boarders. Out of the boarders, 1 part out of 8 parts are girls. And obviously the rest are boys. You can easily tell now the fraction of boys among the boarders. See that? So the question requires some critical analysis. These questions may take a little bit more period of time, but they have more marks than direct questions. So our part A, our part A is how many pupils are boarders? How many pupils are boarders? You go back to our question. In a school of 320 pupils, 3 out of 8 of them are day scholars. Yeah. If 3 out of 8 are day scholars and the rest are boarders, meaning we need to get obviously the fraction for boarders. Then we convert that fraction to number. You see that? The fraction must be converted to number to get the number of boarders. First of all, we don't know the fraction of boarders, and we also don't know the number of boarders. But we know the total number of pupils in the school. So we can use 3 out of 8, the fraction of the day scholars, to get the fraction of the boarders. Therefore, if 3 parts out of 8 parts of them are day scholars and the rest are boarders, first get the fraction of boarders. Fraction of boarders. You underline. So we shall get now 1 whole, which is 8 out of 8 of the whole class. That's a whole class. Take away the fraction of the day scholars, which is 3 out of 8. So here, it is simple. Now, there are various ways of solving these fractions. That's why we are looking at application of these operations: subtraction, multiplication, division, and so on. So here, our LCM of 8 and 8 is 8. Then we shall say 8 divided by 8 is 1. 1 times 8 is 8. Or, let's use that one because we have ever used it. Divide this LCM by 8. It is the LCM to be divided by the denominator. So get 8 divided by 8, 1. 1 times 3, you get 3. So here we shall end up with 5 out of 8. Now, 5 out of 8 is the fraction for boarders. We need the number of boarders. How many pupils are boarders? This is wonderful. Now, you can easily get even a bonus marker for this first. Already you have acquired a mark, depending on how many marks can that number have. Now we say number of boarders. number of borders. Number of borders. Get the fraction for borders. That is 8 out of 5. Multiply by the total number. Because if 3 out of 8 of them are the scholars, it means 5 out of 8 of them, of 320 pupils, are borders. So we are just getting 5 out of 8 of 320. So here we divide. This one can divide 320 without getting a remainder. So 8 divided by 8 is once. 8 goes into 32 4 times, I think. Yeah, this is the multiples of 8. You will get 4. The first multiple is when you will get 32. Then this 0 divided by 8 is 0. So we shall have now 5 multiplied by 40. When you multiply 5 by 40, it will be 200. Now these are borders. They are saying how many pupils are borders. 200 pupils are borders. Even if you don't state, but already here, the heading is showing you're finding the number of now borders. See that? And that is very good. Part A is well answered. If you want to fail it, get the fraction of, there is one who did it like that. He got the fraction of the scholars multiplied by the total, and he said those were borders. You can imagine. Did you really understand that question? You did that thing without thinking. So try to think about it. You can't get the fraction of the borders multiplied by the total. Then you get the number of borders. No. We're supposed to get the fraction of borders, then you multiply by the total. Oh, if you did that, then you could get the number of the scholars. After getting the number of the scholars, subtract it from the total number to get the number of borders. There you will get 3 out of 8 multiplied by the total. You get the scholars. Since the rest were borders, get the total number, subtract, get the total number, take out the number of the scholars. You will still also get 200 pupils. It's just another alternative. But we may not use it. Just that guidance can tell you. You can prove. Can get number of borders. Then after getting the number of borders, get the number of the scholars. After getting the number of the scholars, you will subtract it from the total number and you get the number of borders. Then part B. How many boys are borders? How many boys are borders? Now, we are going to work out for the number of boys who are borders. Maybe I can use probably this part, since I'm not going to remove the other chart. I normally write on the chart because it guides us during our working. It guides us during our working. You cannot dwell with the question. No. The question must be there to see that you have fully answered it. If you get the answer, check, have you really answered the question you want? So how many boys are borders? Now, we need to know the number of boys who are borders. But the question is, 3 out of 8 of them are the scholars, and the rest are borders. That is children, total number. Those who are the scholars, and those who are borders. So far we have got the number of pupils who are borders. It is 200. But when they continued, they said 1 part out of 8 are girls. You see that? Of the borders, 1 part out of 8 parts are girls. Meaning, they are now, they are particularly talking about of the borders. Of the borders. 1 part out of 8 parts are girls. Of the borders. Now, the remaining fraction of the borders is for now boys. You see that? That's what you needed to trace out. So we can easily, now of the borders now, we are particularly on borders. Of the borders, we shall have 8 out of 8. Now borders become a whole. They are talking about borders. Now, 8 out of 8, take away 1 out of 8. Why? We are finding now the fraction of boys. Those who are boarders in particular, because they are saying of the boarders, 1 part out of 8 parts are girls. Meaning the remaining parts that makes this 8 out of 8 is now for boys. So here we are finding the fraction of boys. I've not written. We are just finding the fraction of boys. Let me state it here so that we logically flow. The working should logically flow. Fraction of boys who are boarders. Who are boarders. Because we know the fraction of girls who are boarders, now we need to find the fraction of boys who are boarders. So we shall now get 8 out of 8. Take away 1 out of 8. Take away the fraction of girls. This will be LCM, of course, it is 8. 8 divided by 8, 1. 1 times 8 is 8. Take away 8 divided by 8 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. I will maybe have to give you another alternative of working out these fractions, maybe when we come to the next piece of work. This is 7 out of 8. Now this is the fraction of boys who are boarders. If 1 out of 8 of the boarders are girls, then 1 out of 7 of the boarders are boys. Now we can go on to find the number of boys who are boarders. So we shall say number of boys who are boarders. Who are boarders. Because we now know the fraction of boys who are boarders, we can now find the number of boys who are boarders. We convert from a fraction to number. We get the fraction of those who are boarders times the total number of pupils who are boarders. Now the total number of pupils in the whole class. We are now particularly on boarders. So 7/8 of the boarders were 200. See that? We can reduce by 8 once. 8 goes into 20 twice, I think. Remainder 4. 40 divided by 8 is 5. Check. 20 divided by 8 is 2. 8, 16, 24. So it will be 2 remainder 4. 40 by 8 is 5. So multiply 7 by 25. What do you get? I can multiply from a side here. Our chalkboard is small, so it can be 25 multiplied by 7. That is 35 multiplication table. 7 multiplied by 5. 35. Go with 3. 7 multiplied by 2. 14. Plus 3. 17. You see? There is one who may have got it. So 175 boys are boarders. And that is how you summarize your number. Since it was corrections, I know you must have followed. I thought of writing this on the chart and I just bring to save time. But, you know, I looked at it as if some people had no power BG, so they can gain from today. They can gain today what they miss. So, please, to cope up with the next lesson, you need to have understood this. Last time, we were looking at finding the number when we are given the total. And I promised you, we shall now have to look at finding the total when we are given the number or a part of something. So you need to look at both. These questions are very, very examinable. This area is very examinable. You can check it PLA of 2018, number 35, number 37, 20, that is 2008. 2009 you will find, try to check through your PLA papers, past papers. You will find these questions are very many and major like section B, and they take a lot of marks. So try to go through them several times so that you perfect this area. Fractions, it has very many areas, but once you understand how to work out them, any number that comes your way, you will always crush it, I tell you. So it is all about understanding the basics here. Questions are just created. They are just created and worked out. as a child in a class can set, after teaching this, a child can set for a question, and you also fumble with it until you get the answer. You see that? That's why after this, do more practice to see that you also create other questions for other people to work out. Not these will always come. Questions are created. Allow me erase this. And we look at the new work. The new work is also a bit detailed. You will allow me go slowly by slowly, but with understanding. That is how we managed to finish up this one. At least we go to the next level now. Our next level is just more about fractions, more about application of fractions. In fact, I've designed for you some exercise, but let's go number by number here so that we are in position to do the exercise. Yeah, questions are here. You know, when you're working out math, you don't go from the question. Once you understand the statement, things you can work out by themselves. I love math because answers are not hidden. They are just there. Concepts don't change. Concepts don't change. It's just all about reasoning. Everything on this earth is done through reasoning. You can't do things anyhow. Train our heads how to think and get the answers. Let me hope this is going to be a bit clear to you. I pray time permits us to finish up these questions and you do some trial numbers. Then some other questions, if you have PLOE past papers, you can check them and you see related questions and work out them seriously. Chew them. Let me hope you'll be in position to see what has been pinned on the chalkboard. Let's look at number one because of time. When a sixth of the pupils, a sixth of the pupils in a class are absent, 30 pupils are present. Yeah. When one part out of 60 parts of the pupils in a class are absent, 30 pupils are present. That is a section A number. Find the total number of pupils in the class. These questions are related. Sometimes you have ever seen where after covering 3/5 of the journey, he was still left maybe with 60 kilometers. How long was the journey? Such questions, they come in that kind of manner. But when you work out this, you'll be in position to answer a variety of questions related to that kind of setting. What you must know is the fraction must match with the number. That's what you must base on. Let's try to work out number one, and we see the rest. When one part out of 6 parts of the pupils in a class are absent, this fraction of the pupils, if it is absent, it means there is a certain fraction which is present. You see that? Now, as they continued, they said, 30 pupils are present. You can imagine. They have given us the fraction of the pupils in a class who are absent with the number of pupils who are present. Now, you ask yourself, what are you supposed to do now to find the number of pupils in the whole class? Simple. Do what they did to get the number of pupils who are present. Simple. How did they find the number of pupils who were present? Did they get the fraction of absentees, those who were absent times the total, and they got 30? Obviously, no. When you use the fraction for those who are absent, then you multiply by the total number of pupils in the whole class, you'll get the number of pupils who are absent. If you use the fraction of pupils who are present, then you multiply by the total number of pupils in the whole class, you'll get the number of pupils who are present. So the fraction must match with the number. That is what must be well understood. The fraction must match with the number. Yes, if 1 part out of 6 parts of the pupils in a class are absent, there is a fraction which is present and which fraction is present. So we look for the fraction present, which we shall use to get the number of pupils who are present. So obviously, we shall now have to get fraction of the pupils present. We shall have to look for the fraction of pupils who are present. Take your time. You don't rush. Mathematics, even the time is considered. You don't need to take less than a minute on this number, no. Because, hey, it can be maximum 2 minutes if you see. Just first of all, find the fraction of pupils who are present. Because you have been given the number of pupils who are present. That fraction of the pupils present matches with the number of pupils present. You see that? So the reason for finding the fraction of pupils who are present, I think, is well understood. We use it to find the number of pupils present. So we shall have 6 out of 6. Take away the fraction of those who are absent. This one gives us LCM of 6 and 6 is 6. I know most of you know how to find LCM. Now, 6 divided by 6 is 1. 1 times 6 is 6. Take away. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. So here we shall now have 5, because 6 take away 1 is 5 out of 6. Now, this is the fraction of the pupils who are present. Now, what did they do to get the number of pupils present? Obviously, they got the fraction of pupils who were present, multiplied by the total number of pupils in the whole class. And they got the number of pupils who were present. Most of you misfire here. You may get the fraction of now those ones who are present. Then you get again the fraction which is for those who are present, times again the number of those who are present. Now, what are you finding? So here, we don't know the total number. We can assume. Since we don't know the total number, but we know the number of those who are present, we assume. Some people call it we let. Yeah? Assume. Let the total number. Let the total number of pupils be x. Total number of pupils in the whole class be x. So when you get the fraction of those who are present, that is 5 out of 6, of the total number of pupils in the whole class, you must get 30. It is what they did to get the number of pupils who were present. They got the fraction of of pupils who were present, and they multiplied by the total, not by one part of maybe those who are present, you know. Fraction of those ones present times the total number, you get those who are present. If you want to get those who are absent, get the fraction of those who are absent, multiplied by the total number. Then you get those who are absent. So you can check here, and you see what to do. I'll give you another alternative, faster maybe. Multiply this. When you're multiplying, this one has the denominator as 1, of course. 5 multiplied by x, we shall get 5x. Then 6 multiplied by 1, we get 6 out of 6 is equal to 30. With the multiplication, you don't need to get LCM. You multiply directly. 5 multiplied by x is 5x. 6 multiplied by 6 is 6. 6 multiplied by 1 is 6. I repeat, 5 multiplied by x is 5x. Then 6 multiplied by 1 is 6. So from here, we need to see, some people draw with the denominator. So they multiply both sides by 6 by 6. Let me draw here 2 lines to show that I'm moving to my right. Be smart. There are people who are extremely smart. I love them. Thank you so much for doing smart work. So we shall now have 5x out of 6 multiply this fraction by 6, which is equal to 30. Also multiply it by 6. Then by 6 once, 6 goes into 6 once. Then here we are left with 5x. When you multiply 5x multiplied by 1, you get 5x. Here it will be 1, which is equal to 30 multiplied by 6. Check, it will be, I think, 108. Multiply from a side. 6 times 0 is 0. 6 multiplied by 3 is 18. Now, if 5x is equal to 180, can we find the value of x? Divide both sides by 5 by 5. So 5x, you keep that step, divide by 5, is equal to 180 divided by 5. By 5 once, by 5 once, by 5 once. 5 goes into 18. Is it 3 times? Check. You remain with 3. Because 5 times 3 is 15. To make 18, you will have to add on 3. So 3 remains. 30 divided by 5 now is 6. So our x will be equal to 36. Meaning, the number of pupils in the class was 36. So when you get the fraction of those who were present, 5 out of 6 times 36, you will get 30. You can prove it. That's what they did exactly to get those who were present. You can prove it, but this one you don't need to prove on the paper. Just get 5 out of 6 multiplied by the total number, which is now 36. By 6 once, by 6 is 6. So 5 times 6, you get 30. You see? That's how they did to find the number of pupils who were absent. So what they did, they removed here, and that's why we just put there x. So when you get 5 out of 8 times the total number, we get 30. And that is it. We have got the number of those ones, the total number of pupils in the whole class. That is it. So other questions, try. Look for the fraction that matches with the number which is given. That is what you must embark on. The fraction that matches with the given number. There is another method, but maybe due to time, of parts. Okay, we can use it. First of all, you can first find the fraction of those ones who are present, which is 5 out of 6. Then instead of letting, you know that 5 parts out of 6 parts, this is the fraction of those who were present. Now, that means 5 parts out of 6 parts was the fraction of those present. You can now match. If you don't let, you can match. This fraction matches with 30. This is the fraction of those who were present. This is the number of those who were present. They match. You see, that's why I had to go on to find the fraction that matches with the number given. Then we can use parts. You can easily say 5 parts represent. Some people can just use the arrow. 5 parts. I am not saying 5 out of 6, no. I'm just saying 5 parts, see? Represent 30 pupils. You see that? Represents 5 parts represent 5. These 5 pupils, 30 pupils. Go on to find for 1 part. What if 1 part? 1 part represents, see? We get this 30, you divide it by 5. We want to know what 1 part only represents. If all the 5 parts represent 30 pupils, what if when it's only 1 part? What does 1 part represent? No. By 5 once, by 5 is 6, meaning 1 part represents 6 pupils. Now, the total parts you see here, there were 6 parts. If 1 part represents 6 pupils, what if now all the parts, there were 6 parts. 6 parts. 6 parts represent, we now get 6 multiplied by the 6 pupils. Or you will add 6 times. If one part is 6 pupils, another part is 6 pupils, you will have to add 6 times. That's why I can just 6 multiplied by 6 pupils, and you'll get 36 pupils. That is matching. I've used it because there is someone who may not want to let and can use this other than rushing to go to the next number, and there is a member who is left behind. Let me hope that one is well understood. You can use for parts. All in all, first find the fraction that matches with the number which is given. Then you can match. Yeah, you can use either that one or this one. Allow us go to number 2. If time permits, we rush to number 3. I pray that we finish up. Yeah, allow me erase this now. We go to number 2 now. So there are very many questions set around there. But what you do, get the fractions which matches with the given number. That is all. Then you will get it. A worker spends 1 part out of 3 parts of his salary on rent. 1 part out of 3 parts on rent. 1 part out of 4 parts on transport. 1 part out of 6 parts on food. And saves the rest. You see that? That is how a worker spends his salary. Check the salary for. In fact, it is easier to first list them. A worker spends 1/3. You read it for the second time. A worker spends 1/3 of his salary on rent. You can easily say rent. Fraction spent on rent is 1/3 of his salary on rent. You can say it is 1/3. 1/3 of his salary, whole salary, 1/3 of his, spends 1/3 of his salary, whole salary. It is a whole, It is a whole. So 1/3 of his whole salary on rent, then 1/4 of his salary again, 1/4 of his salary on transport. 1/4, right, transport. It is 1/4 of the whole salary, 1/4 of 1, which is 1/4. Then 1 part out of 6 on food. Check here, food. It is 1 part out of 6 parts. And saves the rest. Meaning, if he spends 1/3 on rent, 1/4 on food, on transport, and 1/6 on food, there is a fraction which is left. Meaning he does not spend the whole salary there. You can prove by maybe getting the total which is already spent to know what he saves, because the remaining fraction was saved. So let's first find the total fraction. So first spent. Total fraction spent. Total fraction spent, we can get 1/3 plus total 1/4 plus 1/6. This one gives us, we are finding first of all the total fraction which has been spent on these 3 items. Remember, the remaining parts will be for savings. So when we get this, we need to find the LCM. Those ones who don't know how to find LCM, you can use ladder method. The least common denominator here. We can get the LCM of the denominators here. Get 3, 4, and 6. We are finding LCM of 4, 6, and 3, 4, and 6. Those are the numbers we need to find their LCM. Start with we are prime factorizing. The smallest prime factor is 2. 2 can divide some of these numbers. When you find that the number is not divisible by 2, don't divide it. Keep that number. 3 divided by 2, it will be 1 remainder 1. Don't write that. Keep the whole number, the 3 there. Then 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Continue with the 2 because there is a number which can still be divided by 2. Since 3 cannot be divided completely by 2, I will keep my 3. Then 2 divided by 1 is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Then 3 divided by 2. Still you will keep your 3 because you will get 1 remainder 1. We don't need to write here remainders. Don't need to write there remainders. Now 2 can no longer divide any of those numbers. You move to the next prime factor, which is now 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 1 divided by 3, it will be a third. So you keep your 1. Then 3 divided by 3 is 1. Then after that, you multiply your prime factors. I know most of you should be knowing how to find LCM. 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3. So 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. 4 multiplied by 3 is 12. So the LCM here is 12. The LCM of 3, 4, and 6 is 12. Now, as I told you, to ease your working maybe, you get the whole fraction, a third multiplied by the LCM, plus get a quarter multiplied by the LCM, plus a sixth multiplied by the LCM. Here, first multiply this, I get the answer before I add. Eh? I'm multiplying every fraction by the LCM. Out of the LCM, you check that. I think it's easier. By 3 once, by 3 is 4. By 4 once, by 4 is 3. By 6 once, by 6 is twice. So our next step will be 1 multiplied by 4 is 4, plus 1 multiplied by 3 is 3, plus 1 multiplied by 2 is 2. Everything out of 12. So if you check, it will be the same as 12 divided by 3 is 4. 4 multiplied by 1 is 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3. 3 multiplied by 1 is 3. 12 divided by 6 is 2. 2 multiplied by 1 is 2. I think that one can ease some people's work. You know, I aim at simplifying the work. So if you can understand that, well and good. There are those who may not understand what has been, what we have been using there. So when we add 4 plus 3, you get 7 plus 2, 9 out of 12. Meaning, the fraction so far spent is 9 parts out of 12 parts. But this one can be reduced further. You can reduce further. There is a number that can divide both 9. It can also divide 12. That is 3. Divide this 9 by 3, you get 3. Divide this 12 by 3, you get 4. Meaning, allow me move to the right here. The number is still continuing. It will be 3 out of 4. Total fraction is the total fractions of first spent on 3 items is 3 parts out of 4 parts. Meaning the remaining parts was saved. So it will be very easy for you to find the fraction saved. Saving, fraction saved, savings. Can write fraction saved, just fraction, because they want the fraction which was saved. Fraction saved. Since 3 parts out of 4 parts were spent on 3 items, 1 part out of 4 parts was saved. You can just tell that one. You can even get 4 out of 4 minus 3 out of 4. Here, as usual, it will be 4 minus 3 out of 4 since the LCM is 4. So here end up with a quarter. You can work out slowly and you get your answer. That's the fraction which was saved, my dear viewer. That's the fraction which was saved. A quarter was saved. Then our part B. Our part B. If he saves 34,000 shillings, how much money does he earn as a salary? If he saves, now they have given us the amount he saves. They want now his total salary. Simple. We already know the fraction he saves. We know the amount he saves. Simple. You can in fact calculate before I even tell you. We know the fraction saved. We also know the amount saved. So to get his salary he earns, you do what they did to get 34,000 shillings. Since the fraction saved was a quarter and the amount saved was 34,000, you can let or match and they can work. Let me hope that is very clear. So let's first let the, the question is, if he saves 34,000 shillings, how much money does he earn as salary? Do I know the fraction he saves? Yes. Do I know the amount he saves? Yes. Let's do what they did to get the amount he saves. Simple. So let the fraction, let the salary he earns be x. So when you get the fraction he saves times his whole salary, you must get 34,000 shillings. I think this is very clear to everybody. We can rush so that we can finish up our number 3, God willing. So here we can multiply 1 times x is x. Then 4 multiplied by 1 is 4, which is equal to 34,000 shillings. So here we multiply both sides by 4, and you get the value of x. You do it with the denominator. So maybe I can say x out of 4 multiplied by 4, which is equal to 34,000 shillings, also multiplied by 4. By 4 ones, by 4 ones. Our x gives us, when you multiply this, you will get your answer. Let me rub here. I take some time. I multiply for you. Understand it. Multiplied by 4. This is shillings. 4 multiplied by 0 is 0. 4 multiplied by 0 is 0. 4 multiplied by 0 is 0. 4 multiplied by 4 is 16. Write these digits well. Your 0 shouldn't look like a 6. So 4 multiplied by 4 is 16. Move with 1. 4 multiplied by 3 is 12 plus 1, 13. 1, 2, 3. So our final answer will be, how much money? Is 136,000 shillings. Members, I've found the amount he earns. That is his whole salary. So the amount he earns is 136,000 shillings. Or you can match. One part, because the fraction he saves is a quarter, the amount he earns, the amount he spends on savings is 34,000. Match, you will get the same answer. So you can say 1 part represents 34,000 shillings. What if 4 parts? Because we don't now need it to. 4 parts, 1 part represents that one. 4 parts represent, it will be now 4 multiplied by 34,000 shillings. And you will get your final answer as that. That is matching if you have not late. As long as you know the fraction saved, you know the amount saved, you can match. If you don't match, late. Simple. My dear viewer, due to time, allow us finalize with number 3. So I think this is clear. This is clear. We are doing enough examples to see that we don't misfire anywhere. Once you understand, it will be very easy for us to get it. Okay. Our number 3. Now, our number 3. We have been warned. I've been warned. Our time is up. We may not finish it up. Otherwise, I will rush through it and you don't get what you are supposed to get. So allow me give you some few questions, perhaps, of that number. So for the work we have covered, you will try for your own, during your own time, since we have been warned. Let me give you this one. Try exercise. We shall begin with number 3, and we look at other questions, because it will not be enough for us because of time. It is used up. Okay. after covering 3 out of 5 parts, 3 parts out of 5 parts of his journey, he was still left with 60 kilometers. How long was his journey? This is what he covered. After covering that, he was still left with 60 kilometers. How long was his journey? How long was his journey? Maybe number 2. Because if I give you again a lot of work, we shall not cover a lot next time, because we shall have to do corrections of that. You can copy that faster. After covering 3 out of 5 of his journey, he was still left with 60 kilometers. How long was his journey? So you can try that number. Then you go through what we have covered, because we have been warned the last minute, so that next time we can continue from there. However, try to do and check PLOE pamphlets. You will get similar questions and you work out them of what you have been doing, questions of similar nature.